Hello duelists, it's Joe here from Rufioh. Welcome to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Go Second variant of True Draco that I've been testing for this format. Now, I've already done a video on the Go First build, so if you're interested in that, go check that out. But I actually probably slightly prefer the Go Second approach, and we'll get into all of that as we go through it. Now, obviously, no extra deck being played. The side deck that I've got here isn't really a side deck. It's just options that you might want to look at and kind of an explainer as to what they are and what they do, really. Now, just briefly, the reason I actually like the Go Second variant a little bit more is because True Draco has this inbuilt ability to break boards. Obviously, floodgates are really exciting for us, not so much our opponent, and you can just side deck those for moments when you know you're going to go first and just stop your opponent playing the game. But you can break boards and kill people quite quickly and quite easily with this deck, and then you set up your own field anyway. I mean, if you can break a board and set up one floodgate, that can often be enough to win the game. And let's be realistic, the only floodgate we really need is the Monarch's Erupt. And for that reason, of course, we're playing no extra deck. Now, before we go any further do all this, make sure you hit subscribe and the notification bell before you realise how fucking garbage this content is. Hopefully, if you stick around, you'll get to see some more Yu-Gi-Oh content in the future. But anyway, enough waffling, let's have a look at the deck. So, we start off with Masterpiece. Just 2 copies are required, more than enough. You definitely don't need a third. Sometimes I've tried this with just the one. It's been okay, but I like to see it more often than not. So yeah, just having 2 in here is nice. And of course, if they find a way to out one, you've always got the backup of getting into another one. And typically, they're not playing through 2. We've got Dynamite Knight at 3. This is the one you absolutely need to see. This is arguably the best one in terms of it just does so much for you in terms of getting to resources. The traps are the best part of this deck effectively, and this guy just helps you get there. He's big as well. Obviously, he's not as powerful as Masterpiece, but quite often this is going to get you into a position to actually win the game. For this build, we're playing 2 copies of Ignis Heat. Again, it's just a big body a lot of the time, but obviously it does get you access to the spells, and the resource game is what this deck does well. 2 copies is more than enough. You definitely don't need a third for this variant. And then we've got 1 copy of Majesty Maiden. Again, just an extra body, and because we're playing less monsters, we do just want that extra way to get into it. I have tried this at 2 as well, but 1 seems to have been what I've kind of settled on here. That's it for your monsters for the deck. As we know, the package kind of more or less stays the same. There's not a whole lot that changes. Onto the spells, we've got 3 copies of Draco Awakening. This is the new spell card. This, of course, it's an extra search, which is why we don't need the extra copy of Majesty Maiden. This is going to help us get there. And on top of that, of course, it can be tributed. It does also put back your monsters into your spell and trap zone if they would go to the grave. So that means they can also be used as tribute fodder as well. We've got 3 copies of Draco Heritage, just drawing the same number of types of True Draco cards that have been sent to the graveyard. Comes up all the time. I mean, if you set up a board with a spell trap, pop a back row, pop a monster, stick this down, you get to draw 2 and you've got another tribute fodder. It's just really, really good. We've got 3 copies of Disciples of the True Draco Phoenix. This, of course, just recycles everything. And, of course, it can pop back row, as can the other spell card. If you need True Draco, by the way, they all have this effect where if they go to the grave, they can pop 1 back row, and they have the secondary effect of you can tribute them to summon a monster using it, using one of your continuous cards as material. And then, of course, they'll have their individual effects. So this one's shuffle back 3 to draw 1, which is pretty cool. We've got 3 copies of Dragonic Diagram. This card's nuts. I don't really need to say a lot more here about this. This just gets you, it digs you deep, it boosts your monsters. Depends on your masterpieces, so whether it's unaffected by spells or not, but yeah, this is just a really, really good card. It's crazy. We've got a copy of Terraforming for our 4th copy of the Dragonic Diagram. We've got 3 copies of Pot of Duality in mixed rarity, because playing True Draco does not trigger our opponent enough on its own. 3 copies of this, just there's not really much more to say. We're not special summoning in this deck, apart from occasionally with Return. So more often than not, this is just insane, being able to pick a card out of 3. Speaking of which, insane cards, Card of Demise. This card is just, it does everything for you. You use your entire hand, you vomit it onto the field, you slap this down, and then you just dig even deeper. It's pretty crazy. Now, onto the parts that I wouldn't necessarily normally play in one of these builds. So these are, let's call it our board breakers. This is our access to board breakers. You've got 3 copies of triple tactics, thrust. This is just, this card does everything. It obviously searches your board breakers, which I think is the main purpose in here. Things like triple tactics talent can help you dig deeper or break boards. We've got things like Harpy's Feather Duster for getting rid of back row in en masse. I've tried this with Regeki as well, which worked really quite well, but I opted to drop it in the end just to keep the deck a little bit tighter. You have enough monster removal without that. And then we've got 2 copies of Spell Card Soul Exchange. This is nuts. This is like the Monarch's Erupt on steroids. Unfortunately, it isn't quick play like that. What this does is it allows you to tribute monsters from your opponent's side of the field as if they were yours, and then once it resolves, your opponent can tribute summon as well using your monsters, but they cannot tribute the monster that you've just tribute summoned. So quite often you're doing this and they don't really have an option. They can usually just tribute summon their own monsters for something else, which doesn't really come up enough in the modern game. So it's really good. The other good thing with this as well is it's good out to things like Liger and sticky monsters like that, because it's not affecting them, whereas something like the Monarch Stormforth does. So that's why this is really, really good. And of course you can search it off your talents, which is really, really good. Oh, sorry, off your thrust. We then got triple copies of True Draco Apocalypse onto our traps. This one's the one where you can pop another face-up True Draco card to half the attack of all your opponent's monsters. Of course, when it goes to grave, it can pop a monster. Inverse of the spells. They do these do front row, the others do back row, and then of course it has the tribute summon effect as well. We've got then double copies of True King's Return. So this one is it can special summon from the graveyard, and then it has the same effect where you can tribute it for monsters. You can use it for a tribute summon, and of course if it goes to grave, it can pop a monster as well. This one comes up a lot less. This is the one that really gets you going. And then on to the final cards for the main deck. The only floodgate we're playing in this version of the build. Triple copies of the Monarch's Erupt. This card just wins games on its own. You have to play it in True Draco. I mean, there are extra deck variants you can try out, but this is really it. Now that rounds off the main deck. I believe it was a total of 40, if my maths isn't terrible. But yeah, that's worked really, really well for me so far. Now on to side deck options. So we could go a number of different ways in how we want to tackle this. You can, of course, load up on even more board breakers if you know you're going to be made to go second. If you think you're going to be made to go first, you can play more floodgates, which is always quite nice. So there's going to be a mixed bag here, but we'll start with Dark Ruler No More. That's, of course, one option that you can try out. Definitely something I would consider. There's some decks where you just need to be able to switch their monsters off to go and actually kill them. So this comes up. The downside is that you can't obviously kill them that turn, but yeah, if you can set up enough of a board, you effectively can. Now, controversial pick here, but this is something that I had tried and has worked okay for me, and you do need to take Demise out for it, but we're looking at hand traps here. We've got Fuelos and we've got Meows. These are the only two that really come up, I think, for the most part. You can try other hand traps as well, but for me, these are just so powerful, especially this, that if you know you're going to go second, being able to draw deep in this deck is really powerful. But one of the good things about this is by going second, you're getting the 6th card as well, which is really, really important. You're just getting that extra material. And True Draco, once you start digging and start winning that resource game, it's really hard for your opponent to beat you once you can get set up. Cards like this just help enable it, and of course, Meow's the same. So those are things to maybe consider. Of course, it's whether you want to drop something like Card of Demise, because it does conflict with it. You could choose not to and take the gamble, you don't draw them together, but maybe I wouldn't. On to some Monarch options, maybe. So I don't have Pantheism, but that would be one I would show you. So you can look at things like Domain of the True Monarchs, March of the Monarchs, Monarch Stormforth. So Monarch Stormforth, of course, is where you contribute your opponent's monster as if you control it. And it's quick play, which is really nice. You can't switch someone from the extra deck, don't care. March of the Monarchs just helps protect your monsters. And again, can't summon from the extra deck, don't care. And then Domain stops your opponent special summoning from their extra deck as well, which is just insane. This is really, really good to just play anyway in the side deck. This is, it's okay, it's fine. This one's decent, but I think that the spell card Soul Exchange is a little bit better, but up to you. And then again, if you play these, you can play things like Pantheism to make sure you dig in deeper and get into them nice and quickly. Now, on to a few floodgates, to say the least. We've got Dimensional Fisher. Now, if you're going first, this is, well, it's permanent shifter, right? Like your opponent can't draw you, which is one of the big things. This deck can play a little bit through draw, but you don't really want to get drawn if you can avoid it. This obviously switches off most hand traps. So this is something that is really good. A lot of decks also can't play through it, whereas you can. So that's quite cool. We've then got Lose One Turn. I think this is probably maybe the best floodgate for this deck outside of Monarch's Erupt. Maybe excluding Domain, I would say, actually. But in terms of the kind of trap floodgates, Lose One Turn is probably one of the best ones. So if you don't control any special summon monsters, you can activate it, which obviously you won't. Or you won't most of the time. And while a monster's face on the field, it gets its effects negated the turn it is special summoned. That's crazy in the modern game. And then it also switches them to defense, which again, most monsters have a really squidgy defense, and then have crazy effects and decent attacks. And quite a lot of the time, it means you can just run over stuff the turn they summon it. They basically have to just try and summon a bunch of things and hope that they can survive the turn with the materials on the field. So it's really good for that. You got things like there can be only one. This is quite a nice floodgate, but against some decks it just does absolutely nothing, which is, I mean, this is a go second build anyway, but it's maybe one to consider not actually maining anyway. Skill Drain is another copy of Erupt, so not much really to say there. We've got Soul Drain. Against some decks, this just wins the game on its own, but again, probably not enough to keep this mained in a go second build. We then have things like Anti-Spell Fragrance. Anti-Spell Fragrance is funny because they have to set things, and you can just pop it by tributing off your spells to go pop their back row, so that's really quite nice. And the good thing with the spells as well is they can be face down when you tribute them, so you can set your own, tribute them off, and then they can pop back row. We then got Rivalry of Warlords. This goes and matches these kind of cards that are just nuts in certain decks, or against certain decks, but not against all of them. We've got Apophis, the Swamp Deity. This is something I play in the Go First build. It just switches off monster effects for your opponent up to the number of continuous traps that you have face up on the field. So this can be really, really good. Like you can negate, well, most of a field pretty much, which is really, really cool. And then final card is Evenly Matched, just one of the ultimate board breakers really to consider playing. Something I'd probably just have sided rather than mained, as I've shown here, but a really, really cool card. And that's all. This is all from me today. Thank you very much for coming along. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Maybe it's given you some food for thought for your own True Draco builds that you want to run. I'd love to hear in the comments if you've tried any variants of True Draco that maybe I haven't covered here. Is there any cards that you've tried out that I haven't covered here that really you think should be added to this deck? I'd love to hear it. Again, get those comments down below. And once again, if you haven't already, definitely hit subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss out on Yu-Gi-Oh content in future. That's all from me. Thank you very much again for coming along. I do appreciate you being here, and I will see you in the next one.